Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 12 o'clock on a Sunday, which means it's time for a Q&A. Now, this is where I take all the questions that you've asked over the course of the week, and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. First of all, thank you very much for people who have said, are you feeling better? Yes, I was under the weather last week. Still got a bit of a nasal thing, but I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you very much. Now, if you've never seen the Q&A before, there's a couple of things that you need to know. First of all, you're kind of getting my raw, unfiltered opinions. And what I mean by that is I haven't read these questions beforehand. I have them open over here. I'm going to take them one by one. If a question leans towards something that's going to take longer to answer, then I'll do so on a future video. So, for example, either it's just gone up or it's going up next week. We've just done a really big video on sponge balls. That was because somebody asked a particular question that needed to have a longer video. So I might do that, but outside of that, you're getting my raw and filtered opinion. Secondly, you want to get your questions in as quickly as possible. I'm currently filming this on Wednesday morning at like 6 a.m. And typically I'll film on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So if you want a guarantee to get your questions in, try to get them in by Monday at the latest. Just if you have a question, put it down below and I'll get back and I'll answer the question for you. If you miss it or I miss the question, I'm very sorry. Leave it down below and I'll get back to it next week. That's it. That's all you need to know. Other than, I just want to say thank you for being on the channel. Thank you for coming and watching Magic TV. Whether it's your first video or your millionth video, whether you subscribed, liked, shared, I just want to say thank you very much. And from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. Now, with that all being said, let's get into it. Let's get into this week's Q&A. Bay JMB, who says, hi Craig, amazing video as always, thank you very much. My first question will probably require a longer video, oh here we go, but what are your current goals and how are you working right now to achieve those? Okay, well, I think we can take this on the Q&A. Goals are very important. I talk about this on the channel all the time. And, you know, ever since I started taking business seriously about 12 years ago, I've had lots of goals. I have long-term goals, medium-term goals, short-term goals. Within my company, I have very, very, very short-term goals, like how many sales we want to get on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. I have longer-term goals that span years, perhaps even decades. So yes, I have lots and lots of goals that I work on, ongoing, to be perfectly honest. And I don't think it would be interesting for you guys if I talked about the short-term goals. If I said to you, right, okay, today, company-wide, between two companies, I want to book in 125 gigs. That's boring. That's something that you're probably not that interested in. What would be more interesting is if you hear about my long-term goals. So we can split those into kind of personal and business, really. I mean, and then there's the kind of the in-between. And anything to do with magic creation, really, or anything to do with the magic community is kind of in between. And what I mean by that is, I don't really view that as business. So for those of you that don't know, maybe you're new to Magic TV, maybe you're new to me, I don't know. I do YouTube for fun, creating magic, making YouTube videos, sitting here with you guys, doing this sort of stuff. This is kind of fun for me. This is something I do because I genuinely like to give back to the magic community. This isn't how I make my living. I make my living as a performer and running companies that supply entertainment to events. That's basically how I make my living. And I do this for fun, and people will turn around to me and go, but Craig, you make money from YouTube. Yeah, I do. But to be honest, the amount I make in a month is, half a gig, really. If I go out and I do a decent paying gig, it's half a gig, maybe a gig. It's not really, compared to the amount of effort I put into it. Because it's effort versus reward, isn't it? And, you have to put a lot of effort into YouTube, not just waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to make videos like this, not just coming up with video ideas, not just that side of things, but editing the videos, getting them up on YouTube and, that sort of thing. It's really a passion project for me. And the same with magic creation. I create magic because I enjoy the process. It's fun for me. I kind of have a brain that likes puzzles, and I look at creating a magic trick as a little bit like creating a puzzle or solving a puzzle. Okay, this needs to be done. How am I going to do this? And also, I'm always trying to freshen up my act, and so creating magic allows me to put new routines into my act constantly. But having said all of that, anything to do with the creation of magic or YouTube or anything is kind of part business in a way, because I am making money from it. But it's more of a passion project. It's more something I do for myself. So really, you've got three sets of goals: personal goals, goals within this industry, and then business goals. So from a business goals point of view, I've been focusing very, very heavily on that side of things recently. In fact, I've done since August, I've done massively less within the community. You probably haven't realized that because I've been on YouTube constantly. I've still been on YouTube, but I don't think I've filmed a project now in about a month and a half, and that doesn't sound like much, but to me that's a big deal because I'm constantly filming projects. So yeah, I've been focusing very much on my business. We've been really kind of leveling up in certain different levels. We've just expanded. So I have two entertainment companies, and with one of the entertainment companies that focuses on kids' parties, we've really expanded from a marketing point of view. One thing that I always try to do is innovate. I always try to kind of look at what the industry is doing and kind of go one step further. And I've spent the last sort of 5 or 6 months researching into WhatsApp integration with businesses and how you can actually integrate WhatsApp and have one central portal with multiple communication streams for both admin and accounts and sales and marketing, and kind of infuse that into the infrastructure of the business and how we communicate with our customers. So I've been, along with Michael, really, really heavily kind of integrating that over the last few months. And we're at a point now where, we're probably about a month away. So that's been taking up a lot of my time and effort. We've really kind of been working on the marketing of Slightly Unusual, which is my entertainment company for kind of magic and illusion shows and that side of things. We've really been leveling up on that because it's always been, the focus has been the other company. And for the last 6 to 8 months, we've really focused on Slightly Unusual, which has seen a massive uptick. Like, we keep on top of where we are organically. Search results, which is an important thing to do if you're really focusing on the SEO for business, and which stands for search engine optimization, and trying to make sure that we rank for all of the phrases and all of the terms that we want to rank for. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes with that, and we're seeing the fruits of our labor. The amount of inquiries that we've had come in over the last sort of 3 months has probably gone up by about 500%. Which is amazing, and the conversion rate has doubled as well. And that's because a lot of the internal communication that we're doing and a lot of the automation behind the scenes with how we're dealing with these inquiries and how they're actually being dealt with, both by email and by phone, and soon WhatsApp, because this is all tying together, right? So it takes a lot to actually run two limited companies like that. And for those of you that don't know, I have an office with staff and so on and so forth, and we work very hard to make sure that those companies are a success. And now, I wouldn't say definitely 100%. I know this because we look at the stats all the time. We're doing well. We're booking in more gigs than ever before. I would say that we're more profitable than ever before. We spent the last year looking at expenses and cutting expenses down. I have been investing very heavily in Slightly Unusual's Illusion Show, because the Illusion Show was always something that we kind of had on the side if people asked for it, but now we're really leveling up on that side of things with a goal to have multiple illusion shows going out at the same time. And we have a lot of new illusions in the warehouse, and teams that are going to be, we're currently in the process of developing shows for various different illusion acts and so on and so forth. So all of that side of things is going really well. In terms of business goals, that's something that I think you guys would find very boring, but I'm looking to basically, if I boiled it down into a nutshell, double in every single measurable statistic over the course of the next 12 months. So double the amount of leads, double the conversion rate, double the amount of bookings, double the, reduce expenses by double. Every single measurable statistic we want to double within the next 12 months. And that's very, very achievable. That's the business side of things. In terms of the fun bit, which is kind of me creating magic, I want to carry. I'd like to do a project with Vanishing Ink. I've spoken to George about this. You know, I did a masterclass with them, but I'd like to do a project at some point with Vanishing Ink. I think that'd be quite a nice thing to do. If we can find the right thing to work on, that'd be good. I haven't done much with Alakazam this year. I've only brought out a couple of things with Alakazam this year, and you know, I don't like that because I love Alakazam. So I'd like to be doing more with Alakazam over the next sort of 6 to 12 months. I want to carry on building my, you know, my relationship with Penguin. I love working with Penguin. They're my favorite magic company, I would say. It's always alternating between Penguin and Alakazam, but yeah, I've got a special place in my heart for Penguin, and they always look after me when I go to Columbus. I love going over there, and they're just really nice people. Everybody at Penguin is just really nice. I have a special place in my heart for Penguin, and I've been the creator of the year 3 years in a row. I want to, you know, I want to carry on. I want to win it for a fourth year. Hell yeah, I want to win it for a fourth year. With Murphy's, I've got some very exciting collaborations with Lloyd Barnes. I want to collaborate with more people. Here's a scoop for you. I'm actually working with David Jonathan on a couple of projects. I had great fun working with Matt Wright. I had great fun working with Mark Bennett. I'm going to be doing another thing with Mark Bennett at some point in the future. I'm collaborating with Mandy Roth, which has been a real dream of mine. If you don't know, Mandy is, you know, one of the most influential women in magic. She's basically, you know, top dog over at Penguin Magic. A lot of people don't realize she's an incredible creator. And I came up with an idea, and she was like, "Yeah, we can make that better." I was like, "How?" And we went back and forth, and her ideas really took this kind of basic idea and really just leveled it up. And I'm like, well, we need to release this together. And she was super into that. So, you know, from a creating point of view, I just want to work with more people. If you're watching this and you want to collab with me, you know, I would love to do that. I also, one of my favorite things is working on other people's projects. Now, I can't do that with everybody's projects, unfortunately. I must get about 15 people a week asking me and saying, hey, will you do the tutorial for this? Will you come on board with me with this project? And unfortunately, I can't do everybody's project. I'd love to, but I just don't have the time. But when something really excites me, I'll jump at the chance. So I've just had Cube Mix come out from Risky Xander. That was great. I got the chance to work with Chris James and Jao Miranda on The Button, which is coming out soon. That's going to be huge. I've got a bunch of other stuff that I've worked on with various different people. You're going to see a coin thing come out at some point from Seth Race, which I think is probably the most innovative coin gimmick I've ever seen. I was very fortunate and lucky to be able to work with him on that. Yeah, I mean, I want to carry on creating magic. I want to go in a different direction. I feel like, you know, I did a lot of the decks that aren't decks about a year and a half ago, and that was super fun. I've never, even though I love packet tricks, I've never really kind of bought anything out to do with packet tricks other than Elf a couple of years ago with Alakazam. I've got Ape coming out with Trick Trick Boom. That was a big bucket list thing. I really wanted to work with Trick Trick Boom and work with Noel and Roddy, and that was amazing. I've got other packet tricks that I want to work that I want to release at some point. They're not ready yet. I'm still working on them, but there's some packet tricks I want to work on, and then. You know, I really want to delve deep into some other coin projects. There's other coin things that I've got in my head that I want to do. You know, I'm very passionate about bringing coin magic out that is accessible. I want to try and get more people doing coin magic, and that's what the Mirage coin set was about. That was what Apparition was about. That was what Nightshade was about. I want to carry on bringing out those elite coin range projects with Alakazam. And there's other coin stuff that I want to do with people like Murphy's and people like Penguin as well. So there's a lot in terms of me as a creator. I've got something I'm working on right now, which is probably my most ambitious project yet. I'm still about a year away from that, but that will be, you know, I'm thinking my biggest thing, my magnus opus, so to speak. Excuse me. I also want to bring out an illusion. I'm speaking to Guy Barrett at the moment about an illusion that I'd really like to see on the market. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But I would love to see this particular thing come out. Yeah, and the Netrix. I want to see the Netrix continue to grow. I'm so proud of the Netrix. I really am. You know, you see a lot of these streaming platforms and they come out and they promise big things and they never deliver. We've been constantly uploading new magic to that platform for 4 years. The amount of magic on there now is just ridiculous, and really strong magic. A lot of the stuff that might eventually see the light of day on a physical product goes on the Netrix first. You see all of my stuff go up on the Netrix, and I'm so passionate about that platform. I'm so passionate about Netrix in general. And I want to see it continue to grow. The VMCs are one of my favorite things, and we've done them every single week now for 4 years. The archives, I don't think you could join the the Netrix now on silver level and be able to watch all of the archives. It's ridiculous. And it continues to grow, which is just awesome. So yeah, that's from that point of view. I want to do more in the States. I want to perform at the Chicago Magic Lounge. I want to perform at 4F. I want to perform at the Magic Castle. I want to go over to Hong Kong. I want to do a lecture over in Hong Kong. I'm doing a lot with TCC at the moment. It would be amazing. I've got a few things in the pipeline with TCC. It would be amazing if I could go over there and film some of that stuff over there and do a lecture. That would be amazing. I want to do a US lecture tour. I want to appear at more conventions in America. That's something that's pretty good. From a personal point of view, I'm pretty happy with where my life is right now. I've got an amazing wife. I've got some amazing kids. We went through a period of time after lockdown where it was very... the work-life balance wasn't there. It was all work, 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 work. And we've put things in place recently to give me and Sarah more time, which has been amazing. And I think that's really important. And I've got some personal goals with Sarah that I'm not going to share, but I'm really happy with where we are as a family unit. And as for Ryland and Thea, probably they're my biggest goal. I want to, the Magic and Mischief show is just phenomenal. At some point soon, I'm going to be sharing the footage with you from Usually Rose, and you're going to be blown away. You really are going to be blown away with what they've done and how good their show is. And I just want to help carry on getting them to where they want to be ultimately, because there's so many goals they want to hit, and they're so talented. Thea especially. I'm so proud of Thea that she's come out of nowhere in the last 6 or 7 months, and you watch her perform on stage. I mean, Ryan and Thea, Magic and Mischief, whatever you want to call them, they just competed in the auditions at the Young YMC, the Young Magic, the youth initiative of the Magic Circle, and it was a stacked competition, and 6 people could go through to the finals. 6 acts could go through to the finals, and they went through, which is amazing, absolutely fantastic, because some of the acts that didn't go through I think are brilliant, and they went through with Ryland having one hand effectively. He could only do everything with one hand, and I spoke to the judges afterwards, and they were so complimentary of the whole act, but especially Thea. And when you see her expressions and you see her performing on stage, she's just a natural. I'm very, very proud of my kids. So there you go. That's a very long answer to a question about my goals. My goals really are just carry on doing what I'm doing and do it better. And I think anybody and everybody, if you're in business or you do anything, I think it's really important to have goals. So thanks for the question. I really appreciate it. Let's move on. Okay, so Bay JMB has got another question. If you were building a brand new stage act and you wanted the whole act to have one overarching storyline, what would it be? What's some of your favourite storylines from Magic? It's a great question. Well, I can give you a real practical example of that in a second, but I always say that when you're developing a storyline for a show, especially if it's a show that you want to have a set storyline and narrative running all the way through, one of the most important things is to make it about something you're interested in. Now, I use this as an example all the time, but you look at Tom Crosby. He genuinely loves geeky stuff. He loves nerdy stuff. He loves the Rubik's Cube. I knew Tom as a kid, and he was the person that was always geeking out over stacked decks and this and that and the other. So it just makes sense for him to have that character as the performing nerd. If there's something that you're interested in, then the show will become so much better if you're interested in that thing. So I'll give you another example. An incredible magician who I always love seeing is a guy called Jay Gatling. Now, he's based in North Wales, and he's a regular at the Magic Bar Live in Llandudno, and is a very, 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 very good performer. He's one of my favourite acts to watch. Jay Gatling, if you haven't seen him, go check him out. But he very openly loves Doctor Who. So when you see him perform, he dresses like Doctor Who. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but he does have a very much... if you imagined the Doctor was going to regenerate tomorrow, he would probably regenerate into Jay Gatling. But on top of that, the music he uses as underscores during his performances, Doctor Who music, especially from the 10th and the 11th Doctor's era, which has some amazing music in those eras. But also he... a lot of the presentations in his performance are referencing, like elements of Doctor Who. And he'll drop lines in that, you probably wouldn't even get unless you're a Whovian. But that's an example of somebody who's kind of taken that and ran with it and done a fantastic job with it. So the biggest piece of advice I can give you is if you're wanting to have a show where there's one single narrative that's running all the way through the show, look to something that you love. What is it that you love? I'm sure that there's that guy, I can't remember his name, that hangs out with Bizarro, the wrestling magician. I can't remember his name, but I'm willing to bet that he loves wrestling. That's where that all came from, yeah? So think about what you love. So with that in mind, if I was going to do a show and I wanted it themed from beginning to end, I'd probably look at things that I love, and it'd probably end up being movies, which is what I love movies. I love watching films. I could watch films all of the time. I'm just a real big movie buff, which is why you've seen so many tricks come out that involve films, things like focus, things like trivia, various different routines in my book, Absolute Madness. And the reason is I'm passionate about films. And so when I'm creating magic, that's an instant hook for me. That hook just makes sense. Now, obviously, it has to be something that the general public are interested in as well. If you're interested in fly fishing and you do a show all about fly fishing, it might not be that interesting. The other person I'd speak to about this is Elliot Bibby. So Elliot Bibby, I've seen him do lots of themed shows where there's a narrative running all the way through, and they're always exceptional. My interview with Elliot Bibby was brilliant, and it's a masterclass. You really should go check it out. And I remember seeing his beach ball act where he had a psychic beach ball, and there was a backstory about this beach ball being on TV, and the whole thing was all about this beach ball. And it sounds insane, it sounds ridiculous, but it was actually really good. So just look at Elliot Bibby. Now, I said I was going to give you a practical real-world example. I'm building a show for Magic and Mischief right now. We're constantly adding material to the Magic and Mischief show. And the show, the thread that runs all the way through the show is sibling rivalry. It's the rivalry between Ryland and Thea, and that brother and sister rivalry, because we're tapping into what really exists there anyway. Ryland and Thea have that sibling rivalry. If you lived with them, you would probably want to kill them. So because of that, the show extends that. It's very easy for them to play off that because that's kind of there naturally anyway. And I talked about them going to, audition for the YMC, Stage Magician of the Year, Young Stage Magician of the Year. And I spoke to the judges afterwards, and one of the judges actually said, "Hey, you remind me of Pan Thompson," who, if you don't know, is a very, very famous assistant who just basically refused to be on stage, didn't really want to be there, the reluctant assistant. And that's exactly the role that Thea plays. She's kind of like, okay, my brother's dragged me into this, but I don't really want to be here, and I'm going to try and do everything I can to mess him up. That's kind of the thing that we've gone through with Magic and Mischief, and that is the glue that holds the whole act together. And why have I gone for that? I've gone for that because it's there, but also it's inherently funny. It's inherently relatable because there's so many people in the audience that have that brother-sister dynamic, and they will watch Ryland and Thea play that out on stage, and it will bring back memories from when they were children and they had that dynamic. So anytime you can touch at the heartstrings of an audience, then you know you're onto a winner. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so the next question is from Justin Hutchins, who says, "Hi Craig, hope you're well." Yes, thank you, Justin, I am very well. "I really like Scott Patton's The Sting, where at the end of the trick, the deck ends up in new deck order. I agree. I think Scott's trick is amazing. I think this blows people's minds after doing other tricks with the deck. I just wanted to know if there are any other tricks that end up in the same way, ending up in new deck order. Thanks. Well, I've got a few that are on the Netrix, and a few that will be going onto the Netrix in the next few weeks and months. So there's always that as a resource. Obviously, the simplest approach is to do a few full deck, full shuffles. So have the deck in new deck order, do a few full shuffles, and then just have the deck return back to its original order. One thing that I used to do all the time is I'd have the deck in new deck order, and I'd do a multiple card find of all of the spades, which is kind of based on something Greg Wilson published in card stuff. I can't remember. Might have been Pyrotechnic Pasteboards, but I think he called it Revelation in Spades, and it was the whole idea of all of the spades being found in different ways, which would end up then afterwards showing that the entire deck's in new deck order. Excuse me. So that's great. That's really, really good. What is it? J.C. Wagner's Super Closer. It's not technically new deck order, but it's close. It feels like it's new deck order. Now, JC's routine is available as a download from Penguin Magic, or you can pick it up from the Easy to Master Card Magic series by Michael Amar. So it's on there as well. Don't ask me which volume, I don't know, but it's also available as a download from Penguin Magic if you just want that one thing. Trying to think of others. There's lots and lots and lots of others. I just can't think of them. It's one of those things where it's just like, you know what I might do? Because there are lots of more, and I'm just going to completely butcher this by trying to think of them off the top of my head. I'll do a top 10 at some point in the next few weeks. I'll do like the top 10 most popular routines that end up with a full deck, new deck order or something like that. I'll do something like that because there are some really, really good examples of this, and I can't think of them right now. Combination of me just waking up about half an hour ago and a combination of being put on the spot. So I'll do a video on this, but JC's Super Closer is one that you absolutely should check out, 100%. Have a look at Revelation in Spades because that's easily adaptable to a full deck Revelation very, very easily. Trying to think of others. Yeah, let me do a video on it. And I'll revisit this in the next couple of weeks. By the way, I've just thought of one other. This will be in the list, but I've just thought of one other. Woody Aragon had a fantastic way of going into new deck order during the course of a trick from Stebbins. And I came up with the same idea at around about the same time. And when I brought out my Beyond Stebbins project, I asked Woody's permission to include that on the project. And he said yes, because Woody is amazing. So if you've got my my Beyond Stebbins project, there is a routine on there that I always close my Stebbins routines with, where you end up using 4 spectators who are mixing up the cards as much as they want to. You end up in new deck order, which is a really cool ending to a Stebbins routine. So have a look at that as well while you're waiting for the new video to come out. Okay, so the next question is Yinhao Magic, who says, hope I'm in time for this week's Q&A. Yes, you are, my friend. What equipment and editing software do you use for content creation on Magic TV? Thanks. What editing software do we use? We use Final Cut Pro. So my office is all Macs in the marketing department. And so we all use Final Cut Pro. It's useful for a few different things, not only the least being we can airdrop footage and raw files between each other very, very easily. That airdrop feature of Macs and iPhones and iPads is just great as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, we use Final Cut Pro, which is I'm self-taught when it comes to Final Cut Pro. About 12 years ago, I said, right, I need to learn how to edit videos. Now, I'm not the greatest editor in the world. I'm not going to be the next Lloyd Barnes or the next Dalton Wayne, but I'm pretty good. I'm not bad. And because I'm not bad, I can very easily edit a show reel. I can very easily edit a trailer for a magic thing, fairly easy. I know that real editors don't use Final Cut Pro. Like, I've spoken to Nemid, who is great at video editing and does a lot of the trailers for people like Alakazam and has worked with TCC and, you know, all these different companies in the past, and always does a fantastic job. He doesn't use Final Cut Pro. I know he doesn't. I don't know which one he uses, but he doesn't use Final Cut Pro. But from my point of view, and from a usability point of view, I've always found that Final Cut Pro is the best one for me. Okay, so the next question is from Paul Mottram, who says, "Hi, Craig. Thanks for answering my question a couple of weeks ago, and thanks again for all you do. You're more than welcome. Thank you very much. My question this week is, are you performing at the House of Secrets in Blackpool this October half term? Myself and my family are visiting in October and would love to see you, Ryland and Thea. If not, what's the best way to find out when you'll be available? Thanks again. Paul and Anastasia." Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Let me see if I can tell you when. I'm just looking at my calendar right now. October. So, Ryland and Thea are in the finals of the Stage Magician of the Year at the YMC. And that's on the 26th of October. We're then going straight from the finals up to Blackpool. So he is going to be performing there Monday the 27th, Tuesday the 28th, Wednesday the 29th, Thursday the 30th. Friday the 31st is going to have a busy one because he's going to be at the House of Secrets, but he's also going to be at the is also going to be at the Tower Ballroom. So he's doing the Magic and Mischief show at the Tower Ballroom with all of the big illusions. So that's going to be super fun. So Tower Ballroom will be on the 31st. That's with all of the big illusions. And then he'll be at the House of Secrets. Now, the House of Secrets, if you've been there before, it's a smaller stage. So we do small custom design stuff, but he's still doing a lot of really cool material. Him and Thea are doing some really cool stuff. So yeah, they're going to be there from Monday to Friday. We were going to be there on Saturday, but they've got a big corporate gig that they've got to go to on the 1st. I believe they're at Butlins. Yes, they're at Butlins. So they're going to be at Butlins on the 1st of November. So we have to leave from there and head over to Skegness. This is my life. My life is basically just following my kids around and taking their show. You know, I used to be something in this industry, and now, after 30 years, I'm my kids' stagehand, gopher, personal compare, and basically tech bitch. So yeah, there you go. So if you're around, and I'll be doing close-up magic in the bar beforehand. I always do close-up magic in the bar. And then, you know, I think that Russ Brown's going to be there as well. It's going to be the special Halloween show. We're trying to work out a way of doing an exorcism live on stage on Thea, so that'll be fun. So yeah, if you can come along, be great to see you. Okay, so the next question is from Diamond Dave Magic, who says, "Hi, Craig. Hope all's well with you and that Ryland's finger is healing well." Yes, it is, thank you. We've just come back from the hospital, and good news, he doesn't have to have surgery. As long as he doesn't bang it or knock it or hurt it, he can just allow it to heal naturally. It's started to heal very, very slowly, but it's starting to heal naturally, and hopefully in about 3 weeks, 3 to 6 weeks, we should be good. So I'll keep you guys updated, but thank you for asking, but that wasn't your question. I have a follow-up question about the number of decks you bring with you. I have my first walk-around gig coming up on Friday, and I'm planning on bringing 2 decks set up for Red Hot Mama and one for Anniversary Waltz, and an invisible deck. I can do several tricks with a regular deck, so I won't need to change in front of a group. And I also have coins, sponge balls, and rubber bands that can go between my card tricks. My question is, should I figure out a way to work the special cards in for those tricks and just carry one regular in the invisible deck? Thanks for all you do. Yeah, I would say those 2 tricks, you only need 1 card. You know, Red Hot Mama is just 1 card, isn't it, really, when you think about it? It's just 1 card. Likewise, Anniversary Waltz is just 1 card as well. Now, depending on the routine and the version you do of Anniversary Waltz, you might have, you know, a couple of extra cards somewhere. You know, you might have a setup of 2 or 3 cards, or it might just be the double facer. But in essence, you've really just got 2 special cards in the deck. So I absolutely would try to condense and put both of those in one. And there's a couple of ways of doing it. The easiest way to do it is, what deck is this? Okay. Is this a regular deck? No, I have Inverto gimmicks here because I love Inverto. Liam Levinan is amazing, but we can use this. So the first thing that you can do, if you want to do it, is, let's say, for example, you need this card here. This is going to be your card for Red Hot Mama, for example, Chicago opener. So what you do is you put the cards inside here, and then you close the flap, and then you put that card there, and the flap is separating that from the rest of the deck. So then when you put your forefinger here, you can take out the deck, leaving that card in there, and do whatever routine that you want to do. Then, after that routine, you put the cards back away inside the box. So you pick up the box, you put the cards away inside the box, and now you go into a rubber band thing, for example, or something else. You know, you said you've got lots of stuff to do, and then you pick the deck off the table and you take the cards out, and now you've added that card at the bottom, so you can then go into Red Hot Mama, or the other way around, whichever way you want to go into it. So that's the first thing that you can do. That works really, really well. If you want to maybe go from one routine into the other, you could very easily work out a way of setting the deck up so that both cards are there. You know, so for, you know, I can't give you much help on that. I'd have to think it through, but it would be very easy to set up the deck and slightly adapt the handling so that you can have both of the gimmicks in the deck, and you can go from the one routine into the other routine, keeping that second card hidden, if that makes sense. You could even apply, let's say you wanted to start with Red Hot Mama and then go into Anniversary Waltz. You could apply a little bit of Magician's Wax on the one side of the double facer and stick it to a joker, right? And just have it somewhere near the top of the deck. So that won't affect Red Hot Mama. If Red Hot Mama's here on the bottom, that won't affect that. You can have the card picked. You can do all of that. You can do all the Red Hot Mama trick. And then because you've got those two cards stuck together, when you're spreading through the deck, the double facer won't show, which means then all you have to do is flick up the deck. You'll be able to hit that thick card. You can separate the wax, and then you're straight into the Anniversary Waltz. That's another way of doing it. The other thing that you could do is you could have set up on the face of the deck two jokers with the double facer in between them. And then what you could do is you could take out the deck of cards and then say, I won't need the jokers, and put the jokers to one side, ditching that double facer openly in full view, do your Red Hot Mama routine, and then afterwards you put the deck onto the jokers, and you go, actually, let me show you one more thing. Now you've loaded that double phaser into position, ready to do that routine. So I would work out a way of doing it, because that's going to really give you more pocket space. And you might not need that pocket space, but the more pocket space that you can have when you're doing walk around, the better. I've seen so many magicians go to a walk around gig, and they go up to a group and you go, right, let me show you something, and they're searching their pockets, and they don't know where things are because there's so much stuff in their pockets, and it's almost amateur hour. You want to try and look as professional as possible. It's the equivalent of stage magicians walking out on stage and not knowing where the props are. And I always tell to stage magicians, you have to rehearse the whole act, where everything is. So where are you going to walk? Where is going to be the first prop that you're going to get? Where are you then going to go? You've got to rehearse walking around on stage. Well, as a close-up magician, you have to rehearse where everything is as well. So if you're going into a particular routine, you need to make sure that prop is easily accessible and you know exactly where it is. And the less decks that you can take with you, the better. Or if you do want to take 3 decks, it allows you to take another really cool gaff deck, so you've got more options when you're going out and performing. So hopefully that answers your question, and thanks for asking it. Okay, so the next question is from Just Josh, who says, question for you, Craig. I typically perform in settings of up to 100 to 150 people. I've had a few requests for some larger stage shows for 500 people-ish, but I've always turned them down because I don't feel like my show can play big enough to 500 people. In fact, I sometimes wonder if it plays big enough for just 100 people. And so I'm asking for your ideas of potential mini illusions that could work well in a stage show. I'm thinking stuff like linking rings, multiplying bottles. I don't want to do a full illusion act, but just get the creative juices flowing a bit. Thanks in advance. Excuse me. So you want to have routines that will allow you to play to up to 500 people very, very easily. So you can do that with small props. You don't need to have big props in order to play it to a big audience. Sometimes it's about the way that you're using the prop, and it's about the way that it's lit. So, for example, if you do if you do Rubik's Cube magic, An incredible thing to do that I've seen Ryland do on stages for up to like 500, 600, 700 people. An incredible thing to do would be to have a chair set up and do a blindfold cube solve. So hand the cube out to someone in the audience, have them mix it, and while they're being mixed, he's talking about combinations and permutations of Rubik's Cube, and then have somebody else, while it's all being mixed, examine a blindfold, which allows you to see down the nose. You then take the blindfold back, you put it on your head, you take the cube back, you sit down on the chair. Now, how this is lit is important. You want to have a spotlight right down onto the chair, so the entire stage is blacked out, other than the spotlight, and you're really well lit. And then you have the spotlight there, studying the cube, bring the blindfold down, music starts. Ryland uses, what's the guy's name with the apple that got shot off his head? William Tell. So he uses the William Tell overture, which is great because it builds up that impossibility of what he's doing. And when he stands up and he's solved the cube, it's always such a really strong moment, and it's played to a huge audience, even though it's one small prop. And you can do that. I've worked stages with 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 people with fiber optics by Richard Sanders. Cards Across, one of my favourite routines to do is Cards Across. I've got my own version of Scott Alexander's Superfly, but Cards Across plays really well on stage, and it's just a deck of cards. If you are in the Netrix, go and have a look at Destination Mistake, which is one of my favourite routines to do. I close every single cabaret show with Destination Mistake, and it's literally just a deck of cards in a destination box, and I get 10 minutes out of it, and I include it in every single illusion show. And that show plays to 1,000 people, and I do that in every show, and it is literally just a deck of cards and a destination box. So you can have these routines play so much bigger on stage if you think about how to light them, if you think about the music that's going over the top of them, and you think about how to present them. Things like this can play much bigger. But if you want props that will play really big, you said it yourself, multiplying bottles is great. Ryland and Thea do the restarting bottle by Morgan and West in almost every show they do, regardless of stage size, and it plays to a massive audience because it feels like it takes up the whole stage, right? Linking rings is another great one. If you want to get into thread, the flying linking rings is amazing. Ryland did that on tour with Killian, and the moment that the ring starts floating looks brilliant. Talking about floating, look into Dancing Hank. Extreme Hank by Sean Begonia. Having that Hank dance around in that bottle is always a big moment and really works for a big stage, even though it's kind of packs flat. It's just a bottle and a handkerchief, but damn, it looks amazing. What else have we got? Suit jacket escape is something I literally made my career doing. The suit jacket escape it will fit into a briefcase and it will play to the biggest audience. If you want smaller illusions, look into Hat from Pad from Tricked Magic, from Alex Jessen and Tricked Magic. Hat from Pad is absolutely brilliant, as is Sands of the Desert, which is another one in Ryland's show. If you don't want to do Hat from Pad, I think that's the best way of doing it. Then have a look into Bolorama by Kevin James. I had on this channel a couple of weeks ago Thomas Moore. He has developed the Snow Table, which is the best version of a secret air-blowing device for Snowstorm. Snowstorm is a fantastic way to close a show and really just requires a snow pellet and some paper and a table if you want to use the Thomas Moore method. So a lot of this stuff won't break the bank. A lot of this stuff isn't that expensive, but it really does play big. If you want to do a coin routine on stage to 500 people, look at the Copentro style thing or Clonk. We've reviewed both of those on the Craig and Ryland review show. That's really good. What else can I say? We've got a review coming up this week. I think it might have gone up on Wednesday when you watch this. It's called Ghost Bag by Pagani Magic, and Ghost Bag is brilliant. Rylan and Thea have put that in their show, and it plays massive. So when you're looking at a trick, don't look at the trick and go, well, okay, what's the workings behind it? Think about how you can frame that trick on a stage. Think about how you can take that trick and you can frame it to make it play bigger than it would do normally. I close a lot of my family shows to 300 or 400 people with a sponge ball routine. 3 sponge balls. That's it. 3 sponge balls, and I close the stage show with it. It's in my book, Absolute Madness. It's the final trick in the book, and I close my family show with it. And it's 3 sponge balls, and it plays massive. It's not about the prop. It's about how you use it and how you frame the show and how you frame the trick and how you set the stage and your use of music and the use of lighting to make that trick feel bigger than it actually is. Okay, so the next question is from Kevin's Wiz, who says, "Hi Craig, this is a somewhat of a silly question. I've never been able to consistently fan cards so they look as nice as others who seem to do it effortlessly. I went to the slight area of the Netrix and looked through basic card handling and miscellaneous card moves and didn't see anything. Is there somewhere to learn how to do a good looking in the hand card fan? Is there some secret that I'm just not figuring out? Might tend to be uneven and clumpy or a big pile at the end. Any suggestions would be gratefully appreciated." You're right. I've never put any fanning techniques onto the Netrix, but I am more than happy to do so. I've just never thought it would be something. I don't know why I didn't think it. It should be on there. Give me a couple of weeks, or maybe even just a week, and I'll get something on there for you. But in terms of fanning the cards, there's 2 really main techniques I use to fan a pack of cards. The first is the thumb fan, and the second is the pressure fan. The pressure fan is the best way to fan a pack of cards and make them look like they are really, really consistently even. It's a little bit like springing a pack of cards. So if you think about springing a pack of cards, and I'm not going to use these because this is inverto and I don't want to squeeze these, but if you think about springing a pack of cards from one hand to the other, basically you spring the cards, but as you do, you give them a twist like this, and it gives it a perfect even spread. I first learnt the pressure fan from Simon Lovell, from one of his DVDs from Repro Magic. I can't remember which one. And at the time, I was really struggling learning how to do the thumb fan. I later learnt it, but at that point, I didn't know. And watching him do doing the pressure fan and learning the pressure fan really helped my technique. So you might want to look into the pressure fan. I'll upload something onto Netrix. The key thing is 2 things. 1, don't give up. Second of all, you don't really need to fan the cards anyway. The amount of times I've fanned the cards in a month, rarely. Just when I'm showing off with a pack of cards, really, more than anything else. So it's not something that you need to do, but if it's something that you want to do and you want to learn, yeah, I've got you back. Okay, so the next question is from Adonis Beradon, who says, "Hi Craig, how would you handle the set list of the show when a client hires you multiple times in a short period? I've got booked for 3 parties in the same month where most of the audience was going to repeat." Okay, so first of all, are you sure the audience is going to repeat? Because I've been booked by the same client over and over again. And when I've spoken to him, he's got different people coming to each individual show. And I've said to him, would you like me to vary the show up, or would you like the same show? And he's like, I don't really care. I just think you're amazing. So confirm that with the client. Make sure. Don't just guess, but make sure that it is a different audience, the same audience every single time. Now, assuming it is the same audience every single time, really the only advice I can give you, well, first of all, he must think that you're doing a great job to book you for 3 events at the same group of people. That's nuts. But the thing that I would say is there's not really anything I can tell you other than get a bigger repertoire or do the same show. I've had this argument with magicians for years on this channel. People will tell me, you only need 1 show and that's it, and that's the show you do for 30 years. And that's great advice. If you want to follow that, that's wonderful advice. My attitude has always been, have as big a repertoire as possible. And what I do is when I go to an event, and I actually make a deal of saying this to the clients, when I go to an event, and I'm doing a show, I will write down on that show list, I will write down the exact show I've done. And I'll tell the client I've written down that show. And I'll say, so the next time you book me, I'll make sure it's a completely different show for you because I know what I've done here. And they go, oh, that's brilliant. And the amount of times that people then rebook me because of that is nuts. So, I think it's very important to have a big repertoire. Now, I don't know if you're doing close-up or you're doing a show. All of this advice is based around shows. If you're doing close-up, you can do variations of tricks. So, for example, there's 5 different ways of doing an ambitious card. You can take the same moves and you can make it feel different. And there's so many different routines you can do in close-up. If you're doing close-up and it's a close-up thing, I would really stick to like maybe 8 or 9 routines at the first gig, a completely different 8 or 9 routines to the second gig, a completely different 8 or 9 routines to the third gig, and that way you're doing different stuff every single time. But if it's a stage show, yeah, you're just either going to have to do the same show or shorten the show slightly. So if you've not really got a 60-minute show, maybe do a 40-minute show, which means that your second show is 20 minutes of new material, 40, and then you're repeating some of the older material. Or depending on the size of the audience, try to do some of the close-up stuff and play it to a big audience. Now I don't know how big the audience is if it is a show, because it's been a bit of an ambiguous question. But if it's a smaller parlor show audience, a lot of close-up stuff would work that you wouldn't normally put in a stage show, but you could. If it's a bigger stage show, ask them if they can supply a TV and a cameraman and do some close-up stuff and project it onto the screen, which again will give you more material. So all of these are great options, and it's just really dependent on which one you want to go for. Okay, so the next question is from Different Magician, who says, can you do a video or a silver level video on the Netrix on what to do at a networking event, how to interact with people and the whole process? That's from Different Magician. Yes, I can, 100%. I built my business up with networking. There was a period. I don't really network now because I'm kind of more operating nationally and not locally. And networking is great for local leads and it's not really great for national leads. But there was a time where I would be going to maybe 3 or 4 networking events a week, and probably 80% of my bookings were coming from going to networking events. Networking is a great way to generate leads because if you do it right, you'll have an army of people going out and pitching your products for you so you don't have to. In fact, I got a gig that I was performing at just last Friday, and it came from an old networking contact, somebody who met me at a networking event, and I built a relationship up with them. And even though they don't go networking now and I don't go networking now, when they needed a magician, they came to me. So networking's still working for me even now. And yeah, there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. I've got a friend called Michelle Ibbs, and she is one of the most prolific networkers that I know. She's very proud of the fact that she's connected with everybody. It's Michelle that you go to if you want to know something. I need this. I'll go speak to this guy. The amount of time she's hooked me up and helped me out is phenomenal. She calls herself, the networking queen. And she's brilliant. And one of her things that she says all the time is it's networking. It's not net eating. It's not net sleeping. It's not net sitting. It's networking. It works, but only if you work at it. And there's things that you can do and things that you can't do. So yeah, I don't think people would be interested in a video like that on Magic TV, but it's the sort of thing that I would definitely put in the Netrix. So yeah, I'll get onto that on the next upload. I think it'd be a fun thing for people to see. And thanks for the suggestion. Okay, so Divishan Magician has asked another question, which I'm not going to answer, Divishan, because I remember answering this exact question. You're asking a question about approaching groups of people for a particular event where the organizer has said they're going to be very deep into business and be mindful of going up to groups of people. I remember answering this very specific question in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So just go through the Q&As and look for the... I definitely answered this. I'm not going to answer it again because I 100% answered it before. So go look in the archives and you'll find the answer to the question. Okay, so the next question is from Punkalo, who says, "Hi Craig, hope you're well now." Yes, thank you very much. I do card tricks only, so my question is, of the following list of tricks that I do currently, how would you construct a 3 or a 4 trick set? Do I lack a certain type of trick? Here's the list: Triumph, Isolated Visitor, Virginia City Shuffle, All the Now Conformist, Ambitious Card by Craig Petty. Oh, bless you. Invisible Palm Aces, Aces and Jokers by Craig Petty. Bless you again. Ultimate Wild Card, 8-card Brainwave, Twisted Sisters, Dr. Daly, Freestyle Aces, Reformation, Double Exposure, Assy wins any card at any number. Blimey hell, you've got some great stuff there. Yeah, I mean, you could very easily create set lists out of that. There's quite a few packet tricks I see. So because there's a lot of packet tricks, you know, you've got Twisted Sisters, you've got Ultimate Wildcard, Virginia City Shuffle. There's quite a few card tricks there. There's quite a few packet tricks there. So I'd maybe create a couple of lists where you start with a packet trick. Whenever I do packet tricks, a lot of the time I start with a packet trick, do the packet trick, and then it gives me an excuse to put it away because I say, well, maybe, just maybe, you think, well, that's quite impressive, but could you do something with an entire full deck of cards? And the answer is yes. You put the packet trick away and you bring out the deck of cards, and it's a great way to kind of go from a packet trick to a card trick. So maybe start with, have 2 or 3 sets maybe where you start with a packet trick, and then your card tricks. I mean, you've got so many different options there. Try to see how you can link it together. So, for example, you've got the Freestyle Aces by John Gustafaro. You could start with that, but instead of using the aces, using the kings, which would then give you a way of going into Isolated Visitor by Larry Jennings and Derek Dingle, which is a fantastic trick with a shuffled deck of cards and 4 kings, and then you know, you've got a selection in there, so you can finish off by then putting the kings away and doing an ambitious card to finish, for example. And then there's another set here where you've got you've got Dr. Daly. So you could have Dr. Daly and then go into the Invisible Palm Aces, because you could say, well, you know, maybe you know, you're wondering how it works. It's all to do with palming. Let me give you an example and teach you how palming works. Then go into that, and then you've got the aces there, and say to them, well, you know what? Name another 4 of a kind. 3s, okay, I'll take out the 3s, and then go into aces and jokers, because it doesn't need to be jokers, it could be 3s, and you use the kings and the 3s, you know, it doesn't have to be aces. That'd be a great set. I always think Triumph makes a good opener. You've got Triumph there. You could have just like a set where there's no, you know, here's a great thing. You could do Triumph, then from Triumph you could do, from Triumph, you could do the Reformation by Guy Hollingsworth, which would be amazing with the card that you found from the Triumph thing. And then you could say, well, let me show you one more thing. Remember when I shuffled the cards face up into face down? I'm going to do that again, but I'm going to try and isolate the moment of magic. And then you do double exposure, which is basically a similar effect, but you're doing it again in a different way with a different method. And I always think that's a really fun thing to do. So yeah, I mean, there's a few ideas. The only one that's a bit awkward is the Assy win any card at any number, because obviously that's the only trick that I can see on there that uses mnemonica. So, you know, I mean, what you're going to do there, right? You could obviously, Assy wins any card at any number is a great opener because the cards start off in the box. So you could do maybe 8-card Brainwave, which is a great kind of mentalism thing where you're saying, think of a card, I know which card you thought of, and then you can up it and you can say, well, you know, let's see if we can take this one step further. Let's see if we can do it with a whole deck. Can you name a card? Can you name a number? Excuse me, you do Assy wins A can. But now you're left with a regular deck. Now, if I was doing, you're left with a mem deck. The only way to go from there is to shuffle the cards based on the list I'm seeing in front of me here. You know, if you want to learn some more mem deck tricks, that would be better. I'd probably go from there into Card College or 2-person act or something like that. But yeah, I mean, all of it works. All of it works really well. If you wanted to go from Assy wins A can into something else, and you wanted to keep the deck in mnemonica, maybe use Triumph by Di Vernon, because the original Triumph routine, which is the one that you're talking about here, can very easily keep the deck in new deck order. Or in mnemonica in this case. So yeah, just think about how you can link those tricks together. But you've definitely got a really good set of tricks there. Absolutely. I mean, that's you could create so many different sets with those. Okay, so the next question is from Magic Trades, who says, thanks for answering my poker trick question. You're more than welcome. I'm really looking forward to going out and performing a couple of routines off cheater chips, especially because I like magic that involves a gambling hook. I agree. Cheetah Chips is amazing, but I am biased. I also want to do a couple of effects with phones, as it's the perfect everyday carry. Do you have any good recommendations for who to research for effects using phones on a fun app that isn't super expensive? P.S. Game Night looks great. Congratulations on another successful release. Thanks very much. I love Game Night. I agree. It's amazing. I am biased. In terms of phone tricks, my go-to phone tricks are Digital Force Bag, which is very, very cool. There's one I reviewed a little while ago from Joshua Riley, where it uses the cards in your Apple Pay, which is really good to do sort of like mind reading stuff. There's a really, really cool one from Nicholas Einhorn and Craig Squires, which is card to wallet. It's a way of doing a card to wallet into the Apple Pay of your iPhone, which is really cool. Toxic Plus is probably my favorite of all time. And Cognito. I do Cognito all of the time. It gets insane reactions. Big, huge, massive Cognito fan. So any of those are great and work really well. Toxic Plus is my favorite if you just want to get one, but all of those are great recommendations. And thanks again for the kind words. Okay, so the next question is from you, who says, "Hi Craig, I bought the elevated coin matrix and I've been a bit disappointed. The biggest problem I'm having is that almost everyone I perform it for thinks I'm moving the coin with my fingers. And honestly, if I actually did do it with my fingers, it would probably look cleaner and be much easier. Just pick up two things and do the move. I really don't get why the method feels less convincing than that. On top of that, even on soft surfaces, spectators can still hear the coin noise, which doesn't help either. I really enjoy your reviews and respect your opinion, so please don't take this as being negative. I'm curious how you gave Elevated Matrix such a strong recommendation. You even said you wished you'd created it yourself. Could you clarify why you rated it so highly, given the issues I've run into? Because it looks really good when you do it right. Here's the problem, right? And look, not every trick can be for every person, and that's absolutely fine. There's tricks that I hate that I know other people absolutely love, and I watch it and I'm like, why do you like this? It's terrible. And there's people that like it, which is great. Magic is subjective, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you don't like Elevated Matrix, that's cool. But you bought it based off not only my review, but also based off the trailer, because the trailer is very honest. The videos that have gone online from Penguin Magic are very honest. It shows you what it looks like. And if you watched it as a trailer and you saw it and you were like, that doesn't look very good, it just looks like I'm moving it with my finger, then you wouldn't have bought it. You would have just gone and looked at my review and gone, well, Craig's obviously an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I could just move that with my finger. Because the issue you have with it is how it looks to an audience. But you were watching this. As an audience, you were watching this trick, and you made the decision to buy it, right? So sometimes, as magicians, we think like magicians. You've heard this expression before, you think like magicians. It happens an awful lot when somebody buys a trick. Now, I'm not saying you're doing this. I have done this many, many times. I know a lot of my friends in magic have done this. But a lot of magicians do this thing where they buy a trick and they spend a couple of hours watching the tutorial. They have a fiddle at it. They can't get it to work as well as it does on the tutorial, and then they dismiss it thinking it doesn't work. And this is kind of something that's happened in the last few years, and I think it's because we're in an era these days of instant gratification. You know, we can get anything immediately. Back in the old days, you had to work for this sort of stuff. You know, I remember when I first got into magic, it would be a case of looking at a mail order catalogue, sending off this thing, coming back. The whole process took weeks. Now I can watch a trailer and literally immediately I can be watching how that trick's done. If I've bought the download, I can literally be watching 5 minutes later how the trick's done. We get instant gratification. So because of that, it means that it's very, very easy for us to dismiss it and go, it doesn't work. The point is, you have to put work into it. Now, Anthony Owen built a career and a reputation off doing magic like this. And honestly, I didn't know him very well, but we've met several times. And I don't think he would have ever put his name to something that was substandard and poor. Now, why did I give it a good review? Because it's from my point of view, it's a very, very, very practical method for a particular trick. I'm very into Matrix, right? And that whole elevated aspect looks great. Now, when I did my performance on Magic TV, it was okay, but I've been practicing it a lot more since then, and it's definitely got a lot better. And I think part of the thing is, if you're not careful, you can make it look like your fingers are moving it around. But the key thing is you don't need to make it look like it's moving around if you hold it in just the right way, if that kind of makes sense. And if you go back and you watch the tutorial, especially the stuff that Nick put on at the beginning, the additional stuff that Nick added before the main thing, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, right? So, is it for everybody? No. Everything I'm saying doesn't. I had somebody message me, and it was only a couple of weeks ago, and they sent me a message, an email, very unhappy with me, very, very unhappy. And the reason they were unhappy is they'd never done coin magic before. They just bought the Mirage coin set, and they wanted to do Finally Flipped, and they couldn't do it. And I was like, oh, I'm very sorry, what are you having trouble with? And we went back and forth by email. What are you having trouble with? Everything. Okay. So how much have you practiced it? 10 minutes. I'm like, what? So you bought the Mirage coin set, and you've practiced for 10 minutes. You've never done coin magic before, and now you're upset it's not working for you. I said, you need to practice more, because the more you practice something, the better you get at it. And that's the same with this. Now, you have to want to learn it. So you might have decided elevated matrix isn't for you, which is fine. That's great. It's not my trick. I can only offer my opinion on it as a reviewer. And my opinion as a reviewer is I think it is actually a really good method to accomplish what has been a holy grail for coin magicians, which is elevating those cards above the table and still being able to have the coins move around. And like I said you've asked why I liked it. I said this in the review. There's no extras. There's no gimmicks. It's any surface. Now, the negative, which I pointed out, is the angle issue. If you're looking at it at the wrong angle, it doesn't look great. But as long as you're in control of those angles, I don't have an issue with the noise. I've never had an issue with the noise. That's maybe just me. I don't know. I tend to perform in lots of areas where there's background noise, so maybe that's an issue for other people. Definitely not an issue for me. But yeah, I stand by the review. But again, you are absolutely entitled to your opinion. If you don't think that it works for you, it doesn't work for you, and that's fine. There are a million tricks that I've bought over the years that have just not been for me, and that have either gone in the bottom drawer or gone in the bin. And that's cool as well. You win some, you lose some. A lot of the stuff that we get isn't going to work for us, and we're looking for those routines that we can put into our act and make it our own. And, if this is the first time that you've bought a trick that you're not happy with, well, welcome to the club. It's going to be happening an awful lot more. But from my point of view, if you put the effort in and you put the time in and you give it some serious practice, I think it could be a worker. Okay, so the next question is from Darren Bain, who says, hi, Craig. On the 14th of August, you did a best of tricks from Magic Live, and you mentioned something called Larry's Bag. After watching your comment, I was keen to buy it, but I can't find it anywhere. I found a Magic Orthodoxy review from 9 years ago, and Penguin have it listed discontinued. I presume that this is either a re-release or a new version of an old effect. Do you know where and when it's likely to be released? Many thanks. I don't. I saw it at FISM. And then I saw the same guy at Magic Live, and he had it again at Magic Live. And I got myself one, and I do agree it's brilliant. But I don't know what his website is. I have got the trick, so let me look at the packaging. Ask the question again down below, right? Because I'm nowhere near where the trick is right now. But ask me the question again next week, and I'll make sure by then I've looked at the packaging, and I'll check to see if there's some sort of website on there that you can order it from, because I think it's a case of it used to be available through Murphy's, now it's not, and it's only available from this guy, and I saw him at 2 conventions, but he might have a website. So leave it with me, and I will. Yeah, I'll see if I can find out. But ask me the question next week. Okay, so the next question is from Michael Warsham, who says, Craig, thanks and get well soon. Question, where or who do you recommend using if we want to print just one custom deck for a newly invented routine we have created, so we can try it out first to see if the deck needs changing or tweaking before making a larger number of decks? Or in case we find out our new routine is not as good as we thought and we don't need any more decks, thanks. Well, there's 2 places really. The first is MPC, Made Playing Cards, over in, I think it's Hong Kong, I might be wrong, but MPC is used by a lot of people. The other way to do it, and definitely the quickest way, and they are building traction by the second, is Print by Magic. Now, Print by Magic has just been bought by Alakazam. So Alakazam now run Print by Magic out of their headquarters in Ashford. They've actually hired a new member of staff to run the printing side of the business, and they can custom create anything from one single gaffed card to an entire gaffed deck. I had a friend of mine contact me about a big project he's working on, and he wanted 12 fully printed decks on bicycles, and I pointed him towards Pete and Alakazam, and they were able to literally turn it around in a couple of days for him. All 12 decks. All of the printing presses are at the headquarters, and they can literally take the entire run, and they can do everything from one single card to an entire deck very, very easily. So I would say speak to Alakazam first and foremost, because their customer service is brilliant, and you're not going to have to be waiting ages for it to be imported into the UK, and you're not going to have to deal with custom charges or anything. So speak to Alakazam, speak to Peter Nardi or Harry Nardi or any one of the guys at Alakazam, and they should be able to help you out. Okay, so the next question is from Fixer 9398, who says, "Hi Craig, I accidentally bought WoW 2.0 instead of the original. Do you have any routines for it?" Yes, I do. Why don't I do a video on Magic TV about WoW 2.0? Of course, I did one on the original WoW. Let's do a hows and whys on the WoW 2.0. For those of you that don't know, the WoW 2.0 is it's a WoW gimmick that doesn't have a sleeve and instead is a back, not a front. And there's some amazing stuff you can do with it. In fact, piece of history here, way back when I was on the Wizard product review, when they first brought out the WoW 2.0, me and Dave Penn put out a special DVD all on routines with the WoW 2.0 for free for World Magic Shop customers. That's how much I think of the WoW 2.0. So I've got a ton of routines because I've continued to work on it since then. So yes, here's what we'll do. I'll do another hows and whys in the next month on the WoW 2.0 and all the different uses of it. But yeah, it's probably, I would say, even more useful as a utility device than the original WoW. So you've got something really special there, and I will happily go through what you can do. Okay, so Hungarian Amafort says, "Hi Craig, thanks for answering my question about creating lucky breaks. Your Queen of Hearts card reveal on your arm really got me thinking. Good. Came up with this. If I take several great reveals with me, like Predictor Key, the Noble One, an envelope with a card, etc., then let them pick a card by naming one, I can reveal it if they name one of the multiple outs. Otherwise, carry on with the card trick as planned. Thanks for putting me on the right track. Keep up the good work. Your material is the best out there." Yeah, you could. You could also use Michael Murray's springboard principle to limit their choices and therefore have an out for every single card they can possibly name. Now, if you don't know what the springboard principle is, go check out Mind Effects. It's brilliant. But very, very briefly, it's the whole idea of having someone name a card and having them change their mind. And by changing their mind, you're forcing them onto a very small selection of cards. It is a genius principle. If you don't know the springboard principle, it's very, very useful for commercial card workers. Go check it out. But that could limit the choices down to 3 to 6 cards whilst feeling that they've got a free choice of 52. And then you can have outs for every single one of those cards. So, yeah. Go check that out. Go and have a look at that. Mind Effects, Michael Murray, Springboard Principle, and good thinking. Let me know how it works out. Okay, so the next question is Simon Brassey, who said, "What happened to MagicSeen? I subscribed in February, but I haven't received anything since. Moved house in July, emailed them to update my address, but had no response from that either. Have I been ripped off?" I don't know. I mean, MagicSeen's been around for a long time. And my favourite magician in the world, Mark Leveridge, has been associated with MagicSeen for a long time, although I think it was a couple of years ago that he stepped away as editor and left. However, having said that, I do know that they're still operating and they're definitely taking people's subscriptions. And they've brought out a couple of books recently, openers and closers and so on and so forth. So I don't think they're ripping anyone off. Let me look into it. Let me look into MagicSeen and see what I can find out. I'll do some digging and I'll get back to you because this is the first I've heard about it. Okay, so the next question is from Mark Davis, who says, "Hi Craig, hope all is well." Yes, thank you very much, Mark. "When doing a 50-minute magic show for kids, I would borrow one of the kids to give me a hand, set up with me, and be part of a trick or two on stage. I have 3 now, all in their late 20s. This would have been when they were 10 to 13. Looking back, they didn't enjoy it much, and I would give them some pocket money for the help. I think I have fonder memories of those times more than what they did. I never pushed, but I have no or very limited. They have no or very limited interest now. I now have young grandkids and would love them to get into the world of magic. I will now let them find their own interest or not. And if they want to learn, then I'm here for them. I have a vast knowledge, many things that you put your own spin on, many tricks over the years, and always think it would be a nice idea to pass it on. Keep up the good work. Regards, Mark." Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, my favourite thing in the world is doing a show with my kids. I absolutely love it. And I'm very lucky that Ryland has been into magic since he came out the womb, and Thea, over the last, year, has become obsessed with magic and has become awesome, and the two of them are brilliant, and it's my favourite thing in the world. But you know what? My dad used to make me do aeromodelling and make little airplanes out of balsa wood, and I hated it, and I did it just because he told me to. And I said to my wife Sarah I would never do the same thing with my kids, and so I didn't. Ryland showed an interest in magic from year dot. Thea never really showed an interest in magic, so I never pushed her, and it was only last year when she suddenly became desperate to want to learn magic that I started really helping her on her magical journey. Sometimes you just have to let them find their own path, and if they gravitate towards what you love, then that's brilliant. But yeah, good luck with the grandkids there, Mark. Okay, the final question is from Stephen Devereux, who says, "Hi Craig, hope you're very well." I am, thank you very much, Stephen. "I'm going to buy your Apparition coin set. Good choice. Which is better, $half or dollar size? Keep up the brilliant work. Thanks, Stephen Rue." Look, I am always going to gravitate towards dollar size coins, and the reason is I have huge, humongous hands. These hands are massive. They're like shovels. They are the biggest hands in the world. It's like I palm a card and it's there. I've got big hands. So because of that, $half look ridiculous in my hands. So I have to use dollars. But I do think as a performer, when you're doing coin magic, the larger the coin, the more visible it is from the audience. Now, there's times when that's not the case. I get that. There's times where we want a $half, especially when we're doing really intricate palming of multiple coins. But by and large, I do try to use the silver dollars whenever I can. So there you go. I got nothing else I can say about that other than, yeah, thank you for buying Apparition, and get the dollar-sized one. You'll thank me later. So there you go, guys. That's another Q&A in the bag. Thank you once again for joining me right here on Magic TV. Now, don't forget, you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with another video. I'm going to be back tonight with a review show special, so make sure you check that out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel. Thank you so much for checking out the content. Don't forget to join the Netrix. It's my online streaming platform for magicians. We've just had 20 or 30 new people join in the last week, so thank you for that. Have fun digging around the archives. I will see you again soon. Go to the Netrix. It's www.thenetrix.com. I'll see you again soon. My name's Craig, and this is Magic TV.